joined by, and we were bouncing ideas off of each other and trying to figure out which topic to kind of tackle today. And I don't think we ended up reaching a very good consensus on it, but I think that we could start with something that ends up segueing into just like a broader discussion.
We had a theme that we wanted to touch on.
Right, exactly. So my original thought on this is how in depth are other games in comparison to Path, and what sort of mechanics differentiate them. There's a second part of that question, which is especially when considering other games of different genres, and that are also considered complicated or deep. But we could chop this into two pieces, I guess, and just address the first one and kind of stay within the ARPG zone, the top-down ARPG zone, because that's the easiest comparison to make. So, I assume you have not played D4.
No.
You decided not to give the company any money. Awesome. I haven't either. And it's not even because of like D4 is the fucked up thing about why I haven't even given them.
I see, the thing about it is that I played D3 and I played Reaper Souls. And what I got from that is that the game felt more arcade-ish, like an arcade.
Okay.
Where you kind of pick it up, you go through it, and you get to a certain point where it doesn't feel rewarding to dig any deeper. Like, there are superficial levels to the end game. Like, it's like getting past a level 100, for example. Like, the levels don't really matter, but they give you little bonuses just to keep motivating you to keep leveling. And you keep doing this until, like, whatever.
The thing is,
it was like...
That's like what D4 is doing, too.
Yeah. And and from the videos and the trailers and everything, and then now the gameplay, it doesn't look or feel any different than what I remember D3 and Reaper Souls feeling like. So based on that whole notion, I kind of just wanted to stay away from it, only because, one, it's expensive. It's an expensive game. Let's be real. But I felt like I wasn't going to get
your value.
Yeah, there's no way I was going to get 100 hours from that game. It just wasn't. I knew I wasn't going to get 100 hours from it. Like, at the very least.
Do you consider the upfront $100 the same as whatever you spent on Path?
That's a rough question.
Like at what point would you be playing D4 and feel like, all right, I got my $100? Like, would it be...
we sit here and say 100 hours in a game. And I think as gamers, we don't realize how much hours that actually is. Like,
right.
Most AAA games don't have hours. They don't pack 100 hours of content in it.
No, it's usually
60.
60 is like Elden Ring level. Like,
yeah.
I feel like Elden Ring, a lot of the Dark Souls series have always been punching above their weight class. Always. They're always so much packed into those games, and there's so much just like levels of understanding in it, and it's such an awesome
and we're not thing. I really want to make a distinction between the 100 percenters, right? I'm not talking about those people, because you can spend another 1,000 hours trying making sure that you get that 100%.
Yeah, I've seen people sit there and put 1,000 hours into Shadow of Mordor.
Have you ever played Zelda Breath of the Wild?
No, I've never been a Zelda fan, strangely enough.
That game you could easily put 100 hours into.
Mm-hmm.
Like easily. Like just having fun with the game. Don't try to speed run it. Just you can easily.
So would you put it on the same like content levels like Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas?
Yeah, probably better, honestly.
Okay.
Probably better. I mean, more modern, obviously,
Right.
but like the level of detail that they really inserted into that game, I tip my hat off to them. Like they really did a good job, and the sequel to it is like twice as better.
Awesome.
They kept everything that was great about the first one, and then they just built upon it. They're like, all right, let's just give them more shit to do. So they did a really fucking good job with it. So when it comes to depth, like that's an example of me like of shit you can continue to do despite the fact that the game is not
Rewarding you anymore?
it's not rewarding you anymore. Like it's just like any game you can always find things to do. Like if you
Yeah.
love it enough, you could just keep playing the game and you'll be fine. But
And then you self challenge and
there's just some games that are no longer gonna reward you for going after a certain point.
right. But there's games like, for instance, Dying Light, those types of things that are 20, 30 hour experiences.
Yeah, and I've played Dying Light 1, I have Dying Light. I'm currently playing Dying Light 2 right now with my wife. And they're great games. They're great games. But once you get to a certain point, once you have a certain amount of gear, like the zombies become kind of like
just more of a nuisance.
Yeah, like you already know the mechanics of everything, so you can kind of like dodge everything, and it's like everything's already discovered. So if you're not really trying to go for 100%, the side quests are meh.
Like, yeah, what am I gonna do with an extra thing? Like, I get you.
So it and
especially when your bill's complete and you're like, I don't need an extra.
Like, and then to replay it feels
awful. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I tried to replay Dying Light 2.
It does feel a little like
I got to I think like chapter 2 and was just like, I don't care anymore
because it feels very linear. Like there's no, even if you make different choices, it's a very linear story. It's a very linear gameplay.
It feels like it was just something that they were just like, oh, allow them to do it again. Like, come on, bro. I understand that everybody thinks that a new game plus is like really necessary nowadays, but for a game like that, I don't know if that's like 100% true. You won't go back to chapter 1 and be like, oh my god, this is stressful. But if you go back to the point where your gear is still restricted and things of that nature, it is interesting to at least a point.
The one game that comes to mind that is probably much more deeper than Path, I've never played it, I've only heard stories about it, is Eve Online.
So I have played a little bit of Eve, and I will say that it is complicated as fuck, but not for the same reasons as Path. And it's what I personally feel is Eve Online has a problem with the new player experience, just like Path does, but in a very different manner. It is not fun to fuck up in that game. Like, because I do like the concept, dude. I love the concept of Eve. Like, you're a space person. Doesn't matter what the fuck you are, just a space person. Go do it. I like that. But it's like none of the information is clear. You have no idea about like trying to fulfill contracts in the right way. And then you're sitting there and sometimes you'll end up like trying to do something that your ship's not designed for. And it had nothing really is pointing you in the right direction of being like, hey, look, this is how you simplify understanding this information.
Right.
Like, Path does that. But the thing is like, you don't need to understand 50% of Path to have fun with Path. You need to understand like 5%, and that's your character. If you can understand your character everything from from that point will just build upon that in such a wonderful way that you feel like ridiculously rewarded for it. You'll go and you'll be like, okay, so I do this percentage of lightning damage roughly, right? You do 40% conversion to lightning of physical, and you do a physical attack, so you know that you do physical and lightning, and all of a sudden you walk into a map and you just fucking die, and you're like, okay, that was a weird kind of die. It seemed like I died when
It's
I
a
hit
weird kind of die.
right, because you know you won't have experienced, like, for instance, reflect yet. And I know you've walked into a reflect map, hit something, and then gone, what? Like, it's so jarring that it's not like, oh, you know, I really don't know what happened. No, you know that when you started killing shit, you just died. And then you go in, and then you start reading the map mods, and you're like, oh, yeah, I do 40% lightning. It has elemental reflect. Apparently 40% of my damage is enough to one-shot me. It's a very good learning, and then you realize after bricking one map, and you make a new one...
It's good learning.
It's good learning. It's a very good learning, and the lesson is right there in front of you. It doesn't... At least not anymore. It doesn't hide those lessons from you anymore. Like...
What's the word? To the untrained. That's the best way I could.
Right, like the thing is like map mods are usually generally descriptive enough for you to understand whether you can do it or not. Especially once you get a grip on, like, do you have damage? Is monsters having double life really going to affect your build? You know what I mean? Those types of things. How quickly are you killing shit? How quickly is shit killing you? You know?
I wanted to go a little bit, take a step back. The reason I mentioned Eve is because Eve was a type of game where you can spend 100 hours and only scratch the surface of the game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think that's when it comes to a game that has depth, that's kind of where my head is going. Like Path, for example. You can play 1,000 hours in Path and still have no fucking idea what you're doing. Like you have a sense of direction. Like you kind of got a feel for it, but there's a large pool of players that have thousands of hours in Path, and myself included. And every league you're sitting there like, that's a recipe? What the fuck? How am I doing this? Like, that's a thing? Like, it's you're sitting there like when we was talking to Alex and like he didn't know to use chisels while the map is white, not blue or yellow. Like, and he has what 4,000 hours in this game or something like that. It's just like, wait, you done? And it was just like, and then me when it comes to like the colors of the how to get the perfect colors of a 4-second item. Like I'm sitting there like, how do I not know this? How long has this been around?
You know, but that's the fun about Path, right? Is there's plenty to learn, and you're never not learning. But because there's so much to learn, like there's stuff that once you start going, like for instance, right? Before you figure out about vendor recipes, you figure out about items, and you start looking at items. Right. And then, so now every time that you pick up an item, you're looking at it, and a lot of your time's going there, and you're realizing that you're finding better items, and you're doing these things, and you're like, oh, yeah. And now, but you have no idea how to create one. You have no idea how to make an item change. You have no idea how to change the resists on an item or manipulate the sockets. You don't know that because you haven't delved into currency. There's so much information. It's so information dense that it's hard to learn about everything at once so that you become like proficient at everything and be like, just blind spots everywhere in this game.
And that's one thing I try to like, I've been perusing Reddit like a motherfucker because there's a large influx of these 4 players now coming to Path, and they're like going ham on the Reddits. And every new player is asking the same questions about like, what makes it difficult? What guide should they use? What this, that, and a third, and da 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 da. And I'm sitting there like, this is you're going down the wrong route. Like you're not gonna understand this in 100 hours. And I'm not downplaying anyone. I'm sure there's a guy out there that can play 100 hours of Path and become a wizard. If that's you and you're listening to this, I tip my hat off to you.
The best player that I've seen come into this game fresh as fuck, and he got to Act 10 Kitava, his first league, and did it. And it's because he had a general understanding of ARPGs. Not the problem, but what was interesting about it is it's more about the mindset that you go into it with. But by the time he cleared Act 10 Kitava, because even though he didn't like necessarily struggle with too many of the aspects of the game, he still ended up not knowing about crafting, not knowing about math.
Oh yeah.
No, like, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where being good at the game, knowing a lot about it, being able to get to mapping and all of those things are all different categories of knowledge in this game.
Yeah, there's a handful of categories. Like there's more than 3 categories. Like knowing how to manipulate the Atlas map to get content that you like.
Yeah.
How to complete your maps. How to complete your maps in a way where you're feeding into the content that you like, whether that's delve or that's something else. Then how to then now navigate your skill tree to get the outcomes that you want. There's the whole more than one onion. I feel like sometimes how to navigate 80 different onions that all interconnect with each other when it comes to crafting.
Yeah,
because every crafting
style.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Crafting mechanic.
Yeah, like if it's essences or if it's fossils, it's an onion in itself to understand how they work.
And the interesting and like frustrating part of it for me is they all tweak different parts of your item. Not too many of them influence your item in the same way. So to be
there's not a lot of overlap. Yeah.
Right. So to get a really good item, you can, and that you want to craft, you can be using anywhere up to 6-7 different crafting methods.
Yeah. And combining them, all of them.
Right.
Get that crazy.
And doing those things in stages.
And that's assuming you know
that they exist.
Well, yeah. So you started the game. All right. Let's say you start the game. You just started the game. You I seen this as a lot of people on Reddit asking this. Should I start now or wait till the league start?
Definitely start now.
So I tell them start now.
If you
start now and see how far you can get. Just no pressure. The economy's already stabilized. There's a bunch of chill people just sitting there waiting to give you some free shit. Just go as far as you can, and then get some basic understanding. And then when league starts, do it again. And then do it again, and then keep doing it.
Yeah.
What's gonna end up happening is that eventually you're gonna come to a point where you're gonna learn. Oh, these are essences. This is how I use essences. Cool. All right. Then you're gonna run into like regular orbs, which is the first flavor, right? The first flavor of every aux.
I got a chaos.
And a chaos. And then eventually, if you're lucky enough, you get Ichors.
Right. Eldritch Thickers. But those are, I don't know.
Late, mid to late end game.
Yeah, like I feel like not only that, but you kind of have to get enough of them. Like you have to target farm them, but one or two.
No, just one. Just one gives you a preview.
Right. Just be like, what is this?
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck? And you just randomly like, okay, I like this item. Let me see what the fuck it does. And it gives you like +2 to health.
Like the first time a sacred orb dropped for me, fucking literally 2,500 hours into my experience of this game.
Yeah, and you're sitting there like, oh my god, I need more of these liquors. Like these liquors give me fucking superpowers on my items.
It's like, wait, this exists? What is this?
Yeah, and then the more deeper you get into the game, the more you start unlocking more and more and more onions.
Like I see it as a big ass garden with an infinitely deep dirt, because when you dig into it, it's just more dirt, and then you dig into more of it, and there's even more dirt, and like you're going down tunnels of dirt, and then if you leave the tunnel and then you start digging in another area, you find completely different dirt, and you're like, fuck.
Well, you become like me. Like, see, I'm the kind of player where I know how big the garden is. I know where every flower is. I know where it's planted. I know how to get to it. I know how to interact with it. But the difference between me and like Scissorin or Pox or some of those guys is that they actually know the chemical balance between all these goddamn plants and how they interact with each other. They know how to make antibiotics. Let's just say that.
Oh, what's that dude's name? Hold up. I gotta find him. This dude is
like
sorry, Echo.
I may know what the plants are. I may know what they look like. I don't may know to understand their basic purpose, but I cannot fathom how to combine all these goddamn plants to make a GG item to save my life.
The person that I enjoy watching for this type of stuff is Empryon Gaming. I don't know if you caught him. He does a lot of Gamba streams where, like, you know, viewers will donate stuff to him and then he'll gamble it away. But what he does at the end of every league is he makes a meme build where he and a group of friends choose a mechanic and do everything they can to scale just this mechanic. And then does streams on how he made these items. But the thing that blew my mind about it is he doesn't just do it on his own. He doesn't just choose attack speed and then be like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna just make an attack speed for my character. He makes 5 other fucking character builds for 5 of his people to play to buff him so that he can really hit like theoretical limits.
So it was like 5 different Arbots?
Yes, like all specializing in something that's giving him something specific. And that's watching him create these and go through the builds as he's making them, like, it's a level of insanity that I can't fathom. Because he'll go through like,
this goes back to the question of depth. You can theoretically do this in other games, but it ain't the same. It's Path takes it to such an outrageous level that as long as you have the currencies, as long as you have the will, you can do it. Like, there's hard limits, I bet, and I don't know this for a fact because I just know based on the videos I watch that D4 you cannot push it to the limit.
Right.
There's a hard wall how crazy you can make your build.
Well,
and maybe that will change, but as of right now, there's a very hard limits.
Well, here's what I find is the issue, right? D4 doesn't. Well, first of all, level scaling. That is the most detrimental mechanic that I've seen covered about D4. When you level up in Path of Exile, you get stronger.
Not only that, you can go in the map that everything's stronger than you.
Right, but
you stepped into you stepped into hell too soon.
Right, but like to me, I'm breaking this down to like the fundamentals of gaming. When you level up, you are supposed to get stronger. Your character is progressing. But in D4, the enemies get stronger. How fucked up is that? And now you have to use the 1 point you have to catch up to them. You go back to level 1 or level what would be a level 1.
They did that. I feel like they did that. Nah, maybe they didn't do it in D3.
To me, that's just disgusting. I find that choice, that specific choice, abhorrent because it takes all power from the player. You are no longer a strong beast going through this world, getting better to where you become something.
You don't feel stronger. You don't ever feel stronger.
Everything takes the same amount of time to kill.
Then everything feels like
that level 1
like
wolf
damage, like HP sponges.
Right. Not only that, like think about it, dude. Like if you walk right now in your current character, whatever it is, you walk to a white map, all of those things in there get mopped up. Why? Because you're level 90 something and you've got decent gear and you were made to murder these things in droves.
Yeah.
That's the point to me. You change. Your character changes. You are progressing and making your build better. Everything else.
Well, the game is designed in a way where it's like the world is not dynamic; it's static, meaning like it exists as it is. You're a person that's going through it, and you can go as far as you want, as hard as you want, or you can stay on the side of the road and not do anything hard. You can do that,
and don't worry, it'll be fine. Like, well, unless you, from what I've seen, unless you like brick your build. Because I have seen that you can do that, and then once you level up in the wrong way too far, you no longer can do it because again, the monsters everywhere you go are too strong. What happens if you can't do maps? I'm not even gonna lead you to this. What, like, you tell me what happens if you get to level 70 and you can't do maps? None of your friends are on. Tell me what you do.
Gotta do go back to the running blood aqueducts or some shit.
Exactly. You go back to blood aqueducts, to an area you can kill a lot of things fast and get experience for it. What do you do in D4 when you can't kill shit? There's nowhere you can go. Everything is the same fucking level.
But in D4 there are guardrails. Like,
of course there's guardrails.
You can't fuck up your character like you can in Path.
Not early. Not like Path, not early.
But like you can make a suboptimal character in D4. Like it could be a little like not optimized where it's not doing as like if you split all your points evenly, you need to specialize in shit.
Well, that's the thing. I have heard that you like once you get to the upper levels, like to the point where you're basically just grinding, you can actually make shit too hard for yourself. And again, once you hit that point, there's nowhere to go. You can't go to level 1.
That's neat to me.
Because there's nowhere. Everything is the same level, even if you go to the first area.
The mapping system of Path, and I think they call it the depths of hells.
Right.
So that's their version of maps.
World tiers.
Their version of maps.
Rifts.
It doesn't feel like you're doing anything different. It feels like you're just like in the same world. What the thing with maps and the concept behind maps is that you actually feel like you're going to different parts of the universe.
Oh yeah,
it feels like you're traveling, and the level of the maps are different. The enemies are different. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's some overlap. Yeah, there's some repetitiveness, of course, because it's how many goddamn assets you can have. But
that and okay, so this is the other thing, right? I don't believe people understand how important mob density is. And I understand what limitations that leads to. It doesn't lead to struggle fights, right? When you walk into a map in Path of Exile, because of the map density, if you can't do it, because there are so many monsters around, the problem is accentuated. You are going to die, and you are going to die fast.
Yeah.
When you get to the point where you are good enough to do that particular content, you are going to kill shit. Shit is going to die. Bosses might take you a minute depending on how much DPS you do, but once you get to the upper echelon of your build, chances are you're melting bosses as fast as, or sometimes faster than rare mobs.
And again, it depends on your build. If your build is like a Righteous Fire, It don't matter how high you get, you're still gonna take a little bit for bosses.
Mm-hmm.
You may melt everything else down, but the bosses may look at you like, nah, bro, you're gonna take a little minute.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do my health bar tiny bits at a time. But it's one of those things where like it's awesome in that fact of you're either dying or you're killing shit. I like that. So what I've noticed for people that like D4, they like more of the mechanical. I have to dodge when he does this, and all the enemies have to have a certain thing that they do. Like, I don't give a fuck when it comes to POE. I know certain mobs have certain attacks.
Well, right? you don't have that luxury in Path. You don't see shit.
True. Especially when you go like really ham, because you can get builds where it's just
even with a basic build. Let's say a basic minion build.
There's too much going on.
You go past tier 10. Go past tier. Matter of fact, go past tier 6. Just too much shit going on. You can't see shit.
There's too much going on, and if you pay attention to any of it, you're probably dead.
Yeah, it's too much shit going on, and then and not only that, if you are paying attention, that means you're not moving fast enough, so you're not completing your maps fast enough. You're spending too much time in one single map, and it's just like then you're not.
That's based on personal preference of what you're trying to do.
Well, this is based on what they say about like maps per minute equal X amount of like currency.
Yeah, but that's not. Most people aren't like looking to try to maximize when they're barely getting into mapping in the first place. The whole point of mapping, like when you first get up there, at this point, you're just testing your build and having fun doing something that's like relatively new to you. Once you start getting into it,
someone asked that question too on Reddit. Someone asked that question like, "Do I have to go into red maps, or can I just stay in yellow and white maps?"
You can absolutely just stay in yellow and white maps. The thing is, as a matter of fact, there are farming strategies based on yellow and white maps, where that's how you make your money and how you get stronger. Most of like POE races and stuff, most people that are like hardcore and you're racing to level 100, you're leveling in the lowest possible map that you can while still getting experience because it's safer.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, as long as you're killing shit, you're getting experience.
Right, and it's one of those things where like me personally, that's what makes this game like better than most other games I play, because when I decide I want to play a game about killing shit, I just want to kill shit. I don't really want to fuck around with too many fucking side content. But I can do that with PoE. I don't have to interact with shit. Most of the time now when I level, unless I want to over level and I'm enjoying the league mechanic, I ignore mechanics all day.
It's amazing how with the Path versus other games where the side mechanics of Path are there.
Yeah.
But they don't force you to interact with them. They're like, if you want, go ahead, do it. If you don't, fuck it.
Leave it alone. We ain't gonna make
it. And it doesn't give you, like, for example, Nico for Delve.
Yep.
Incursions with Alva. And what's the syndicate chick? I forgot.
It's not Alva. I know who you're talking about.
But yeah, they're side content. You don't have to do that side content. You don't
have to touch it. You don't have to look at it.
If you want to and you enter it, it's more shit to kill, more shit to worry about, more shit to like the danger that goes up.
Yeah, it's a wonderful. To me, it's such a wonderful recipe for my kind of brain. Right? When I got bored of just killing a whole bunch of shit in maps, I was like, I need to find something else to do. Oh, I heard Delve is pretty fun. Let me see how I could do in Delve. So now I'm killing shit with a new mechanic that requires me to think about the game a little bit differently and learn.
And it rewards you. It doesn't stop rewarding you.
Yeah, it rewards you. It makes you feel good about interacting with these mechanics. It's like most of the time. Like Calandra was pretty bad. But
well, I mean, all right, wait. That's I gotta defend this now. Calandra was a league content, and the league content is a hit and miss when it comes to what it looks like.
How rewarding it is versus how hard it is.
Yeah, like I keep saying this. Synthesis. I love Synthesis. Synthesis was a combination of Blight versus like a weird. Do you ever play that game online where you have to like remove? Hold on, wait. Let my brain think right now. You have to remove the red car from the parking lot.
No.
All right, let me choose a different example.
Is it like a slide puzzle?
Yeah, it's like a slide puzzle. Then you have to
Okay,
kind of like range it, but you can't take any pieces out.
Yeah.
So
Slide
synthesis was that kind of mini game where you every time you completed a map and it had a synthesis, you get a puzzle piece, and you had to connect all these puzzle pieces to the rewards on a map. And every puzzle piece you got, that was another map that you got. And then when you completed it, you would go into the synthesis, and basically you would do every little map that you collected and get all the rewards and kill all the animal creatures in that route. Kind of like Crucible, except it's not the same, obviously.
Right.
But but people hated it because it took them away from the content that they wanted to do, which was maps. They had to stop what they were doing, go into the synthesis, and then do and it took a little bit. It took because each one was a what you call a screen,
Right?
Not a screen. What you call
like
it?
A tile set,
like an arena.
Yeah,
it's an arena, and it's like 2 or 3 screens big, an arena. And every tile, every puzzle piece, and sometimes the puzzle piece would be between 5 to 6, 7. The further away you got, the better the rewards. And people were like, this shit takes too long. But it was like, but that was the point of it. That was the point of the league, is to take you a little bit away. But see, POE players are like, no, let me do what I want to do. Fuck you and your content. And I think GGG has like understood that now. It's like, all right, we're gonna give you extra content, but we're gonna just leave it up to you if you want to interact with it or not, and not force you to actually do it. And the last couple of leagues reflects that.
It does. It's one of those things where it's a very take it or leave it kind of league where if you interact with it, it is going to give you something. It's going to make your time. Well, it's going to give you what it thinks your time is worth. Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes not so much. Harvest is like
Harvest. Harvest
that
is
really
one of the,
depended on how much you wanted to put into Harvest, right?
But Harvest, when it first came out, everyone just like, what in the fuck is this shit? Because you had to plan out the what you call those things? The crops, man. You had to like put like dispersers and the right colors, and you had to figure out an algorithm of how to put everything, and they had fucking guys on this shit.
Yeah,
and people spend hours doing this shit.
I ended up stopping because I was like, dude, if I wanted to play Farmville, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that it was just like a really super duper strong mechanic if you just get into it.
Exactly. And then they simplified it.
They simplified it, and it was still too strong.
Now they got it. I think they got it at the right point. Just go in, kill shit, get some juice, leave.
I think it's almost at a good point. I believe they need to add a few more really powerful crafts. So
I don't mean that the reward. You're talking about the reward,
right?
I'm talking about the mechanics of how you interact with it.
Well, that's kind of what I mean. Because, for instance, a lot of the people who really did pay attention to Harvest no longer do, because the things that it was really important for are no longer there.
I mean, that's fair enough. The reward is no longer enough motivation to do the content.
Right. And it's like what I believe needs to happen, because they have a couple enchants that are like, a lot of juice. What I heard a good suggestion, which was, I don't care how much you charge me for the big crafts that you took away. If it's double that amount, triple that amount, I don't care. Allow me to get it.
Right. Because then that would motivate me to specialize into it and do the content.
But right now, with what you have, I don't need this. I don't want this. Nobody's looking for this. It's not really all that valuable. it's fast enough to it's easier to farm the juice, right, and just give it to people for literal gambling, because that's usually what people do now. All that most people use it for is the take a thing, turn it either into double that thing or half or zero of that thing.
Right.
So double or nothing kind of situation going, where it has like a roll between any one of those outcomes.
To get the juice, it feels like going into a side veil area.
Yeah,
like you go in, kill shit, and then back out.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to fuck with no. Like you don't have to like.
Yeah, I like the way you interact with it now. The mechanic itself.
Yeah, it's easy. It's simple. And again, you could do it or you don't have to do it. Like it doesn't take you 3 hours or 4 hours to plan the seeds out. You know, water it and all that shit. You just don't have to do that, which is what the biggest problem with it when it first came out.
Right. And now I just think it's just not rewarding enough.
And I think Metamorph is kind of similar to that in that space. Like Metamorph is not bad where it is, but is not really rewarding. It doesn't feel rewarding.
It's pretty fucking bad where it is.
Because it anything you spawn will murder you. Like straight up murder you. And then what you get out of it is like, half the time.
Yeah, I went into Metamorph for a little bit to try to get the challenge done. And I was just super disappointed. Because I went hard, because I was like, let me try to crank these out real quick. Let me just put everything into there and just, get what bonuses from it I can. And I think at the end of it, I had made a total of like 60 chaos. And it was because I got lucky with a prismatic oil, or not a prismatic catalyst drop. Basically, one of the like better things that I could get.
I want to read
hundreds of these goddamn metamorphs, dude. But they turn out to be useless.
I don't think there's another game. I feel like I'm putting my foot in my mouth. I haven't come across a game where is combining very deep, difficult shit every goddamn league, every 3 months. At this point, like they're adding crazy amounts of difficulty things that all interact with each other at the same time,
and then adding to it,
and then just continue adding to that difficulty. I don't know any other game that has done this, that has successfully done it, that makes sense, that is rewarding, that somehow when you're able to combine all these goddamn things like a mad scientist, you get something so impossibly great that you sit there like, I need to retire. Like, what more can I do? Like, there are plenty of players who have felt that way, where you make something, you're just sitting there like, I think I'm done. I think I'm done.
Yeah,
I've succeeded in life. There are other games that are complicated. There are games that have complicated features about it, but to have so many to successfully interact with each other, and they don't get me wrong, Pat has gotten it wrong sometimes. They got some things like that. They had unintended consequences when they implemented it. It was like, wait, that was not supposed to happen.
Oh, yeah. This league is a perfect example. Yeah. My build that I ended up moving into was broken with a capital B. They did not intend us to be able to do what we ended up doing. At least not to the degree. I am convinced that this was an oversight, that no one actually tested how hard we could scale this.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's always unintended consequences, and they have to like dial it back and kind of like, okay,
they did. And the thing is, no, hold up. This is one of my favorite things about Path right now. Is what did they do about it? They looked at it. They said, "Well, this is unintended, but since PvP doesn't really exist, go for it." They didn't kill my fun. Remember when I made this build? It was like week 3.
I think it was a perfect storm though.
It was
Here's the perfect storm. The perfect storm is that they're up against ExileCon. They're up against, the work that they're doing in Path 2. And for them to fix this, they kind of was probably looking at it like, let them have their fun.
well, no, like they could have easily nerfed it and brought it back into like
That's
normality by just, dude, honestly,
like decreasing the percentage. Like,
yeah, change it from 600 to 400 and the 400 to 200. Kid you not, half the damage would probably make this build on par with some of the better builds in the league.
I think it was strategic in their part not to do that, because what they wanted to set out to do is say that people like this concept. This is a new onion. This is a new onion they introduced, and they're like, "You like? Now you can make even more impossible weapons. Not only do you have to craft a weapon to make it GG, now you have to not add the perfect skill tree to the motherfucker."
Yeah, dude. And again, going back to the nerfing, because this just popped in my head.
And what happens when you corrupt it? Does it change the goddamn skill tree?
It can. Wait. No, I don't know. I think it can.
That just stressed me out.
Don't quote me on this. But what I do know is that combining these trees, like, all right, so say you wanted a Wind Ripper and you wanted a special tree on it. The sad part about it is that it would probably cost you more Wind Rippers than it would be to smash a whole bunch of the Wind Ripper base together and then chance it up to a Wind Ripper.
I see what you mean. The RNG just is not
right. It, like, the smashing RNG on these is fucked.
Yeah.
I had a homie that was sitting there smashing together 9 divine bows, trying to make just like a really good bow. He got the combination he wanted, but didn't realize that combining them had a possibility of corrupting the item itself.
One thing that they need to do with that is they need to expand the pool of available nodes to be more, I hate to use this word, but inclusive to other builds. Like, I feel like some builds have like some good nodes, but then others kind of had like nothing really available for them.
Yeah.
Like, well, maybe they did. It just maybe they felt a little lackluster.
Yeah, nothing big. Like, nothing that was like.
I think I think each build should have like 1 or 2, like, if you get this node, like, this is fucking good. I mean, like, each like thing should at least have 1 or 2, in my opinion, for it to be like, I don't want to say like a chase item, but like something that you chase after. Like, oh, if I can keep making wands, for example, like from a minion build, I had like 1,000 wands, but ironically, the best node that I keep getting was the first one, which was like plus 32 damage for my minions.
You're right.
If I can hit that node, I don't give a fuck about anything else. There's nothing else was worth it.
Well, but then again,
at least for my minion build, it was I had a specific one.
Oh, okay. Was it one of those things where it's like it wasn't, you didn't know of what could roll?
No, I pulled up the full list. It was nothing that really helped my build specifically.
Gotcha.
Other than the plus minion damage. Everything else was actually more detrimental for my build.
You know, it's actually really interesting because I remember when we were leveling and we were doing some of the mechanics. I ended up
that was AIDS too, man. That was just...
Oh yeah. What ended up happening is I was making bows as we were starting to get into white maps and shit. And I remember being like, well, I'm a bow build, or at least trying to make one and see if I could do these. Started doing them, accidentally made a totem bow. And I remember looking at the node and being like, I wonder how much health totems have. Because that was the way that it was phrased. Totems you summon on death explode for 600% of their maximum life. So the obvious question is, how much life is that? Like, and I remember being like, you know what? I'm stuffing this in my stash because if that turns out to be busted, I'm gonna swap first of all, and second of all, I don't think I'm smart enough to even know. And like 4 or 5 days later, the totem build hit, and people were like, "This shit's crazy." I think people noticed the same shit that I did. Like on site, we noticed that something was wrong. Something here was off. Something.
You hear percentages like that. You see a percentage of 600%. You have to stop and think like, huh?
What? It's like, wait, 600%.
Is this intended? 600%?
They add an extra zero.
Even if it's even if it's like 1,000. 600%.
It's like,
if 1,000 is 1,000
at level 20,
that's exponentially. You're not even doing like times 6. You gotta exponent. It's like 1,000 to the 6th power.
It's funny because, well, with our build, you're right, but a base devouring totem at level 20 has 2,250 health ish.
Yeah.
If I remember it correctly. But there are nodes on the tree to increase totem health by like a fair bit. There are items that do it, and then the one thing, this is how I know the build was unintended. They forgot, or well, I don't know if I forgot, but they didn't even check if a trap can summon the totem. And when you think about it, it's like, okay, well, what difference does that make? First, so if I want to summon 10 totems, right? And I want all those totems to explode. I either have to summon 10 totems and wait for the 5 seconds.
Which you can't. There's a limit there's a hard limit on how many totems you can summon.
But I have to bring out the 10 and then wait for those to die, or summon another 10 to kill those totems. But putting them on traps means I can keep my totem limit at 1 and make my traps summon multiple totems, and then make me throw multiple traps. So now every totem that is summoned past the first one just explodes. I don't believe that could have been foreseen. I don't think that you would have ever looked at that node and been like, and extrapolated. Oh yeah,
you can leave the node. Ironically enough, you can leave the node at 600,000, and then you just be like, well, you can no longer summon totems with traps.
Right. That would completely balance that situation. As a matter of fact, I think that would pretty much kill the build.
Yeah. Because I think the 600% totem, I think that 600% totem, it's a real... you have to understand, totems were at one point the go-to build. Like, they scaled really good damage, ironically.
Yeah. They still do, in a lot of ways.
And they've been nerfed. They've been buffed, nerfed, buffed, nerfed, buffed, nerfed for the past, 4 years. Right? Sometimes they get buffed, but damage. Sometimes they get nerfed with well, they do a lot of damage, but they don't fucking survive. So when it comes to boss fights and stuff like that, it's just trash choosing them.
Yeah.
And then they'll buff the life, and then they'll nerf the damage, and it's just it goes to these weird periods. Right now, they're not in a bad space. They're just not in a good space. It doesn't feel very rewarding to play a totem build.
I disagree. It depends on what kind of totem build you're playing.
You're playing an explodey build. That's not the same, bro.
No. Do you don't remember my build the last league? I played a Frost Spear or Ice Nova Frost Spear totem build, and it was excellent. I cleared Maven with that build. It was an excellent build. It functions. It's just slower than a lot of other builds.
It's definitely slower, yeah. They're definitely slow builds.
It's a different play style that not a lot of people like. And I think that's what it ends up being, right? Nobody likes walking forward, summoning a couple things, waiting, walking forward, summoning a couple things, waiting. You know what I mean? Who likes doing it? But, for the totems that I was playing, I would summon 6 of them on top of a boss. And they would all just cast Ice Spear ridiculously fast because I was making my attack speed and my cast speed both apply to the totem's cast speed. So they were just shooting out spears like they're cracked out, just like, and there's like 6 of them. They're all shooting multiple spears. And it's like boom, melt bosses. You know, put in Frost Pulse, and it becomes a relatively decent mapper.
Right.
Like it works. I just don't think it's a very widely enjoyed play style. Sort of like minions, it's a niche thing. Not everybody likes waiting around for their minions to die. Some people really love watching other shit do their bidding. Like it's just like I don't know, man. I don't know if I can blame totems for that because totems themselves are perfectly strong. Like there's even like physical totems that you can do, where like earthquake totems and shit. Like those function pretty well.
They have expanded their repertoire. Before like the some of the more common ones was like incinerate totems, which was like the most common one. You go chieftain, but they've destroyed chieftain. You know,
you have a lot of like cast. You have now 2 generic things, right? You have a thing that makes spells a mine or a totem or a trap. You know, I think that was the good thing. Well, because now there's very little spells that totems can't cast.
Yeah.
Right. There are a couple, but for instance, like say you have 2 slots open and you're like, you know what, I don't care about having a couple extra pieces. Let me just put totem, a spell totem, and a curse.
Now,
so you summon a totem while you're killing shit. It's cursing things around you. You can do that.
I see your. I'm trying to use a Yu-Gi-Oh term here. I see your Dark Magician now, and I raise you, and I reveal my trap card, and say, I don't know shit about Yu-Gi-Oh.
Just blasting me out on Yu-Gi-Oh for no reason. Then
I don't. I in my mind, I had one, and then I lost it. I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, so I kind of know a little bit. When it comes to debt, when it comes to totems specifically, we are about to enter a new age of debt. The type of debt that no one has no idea how to deal with, and that is how the Path 2 will link and do linkage of items.
Right.
Because I can very well see having 2 different types of totems doing 2 different types of spells that somehow interact with each other.
Oh, yo.
Like one does puncture and then the other one does fucking
reap.
Yeah. I don't know.
Something that, or no, like
something that makes you bleed and the other one that fucking sucks up your blood.
Right, something that consumes.
You know what I'm saying? Like I can see that. I can see something like that. Especially with the way they're just the previews.
No, bro. I just figured out what I'm gonna play. So I'm sorry that I'm going back on my melee promise, but
next league is not gonna be. Next league is not
okay. So when Path of Exile 2 comes out, if I can make 2 6-link totems, one that casts Arc with a really high chance to shock, and the other one that casts Lightning Conduit.
Oh. Yeah.
That would
and do the same system of like cast speed with attack speed and just have them cracked out. Just
right. Dude, holy shit.
Yeah. When it comes to depth, like,
yo, hold up. Actually, I think I can make that build now. I think I can make that build with an Annihilating Light and just another 6-link.
Yeah, 2 6-links.
Oh no, all right, I have to play melee this upcoming week. Oh wow, that's an interesting. I'm sorry everybody that heard me just kind of go down that weird little rabbit tunnel, but like figuring out that there's an interaction that you might be able to exploit to make a really fun build is like fucking crack.
Well, it speaks towards it speaks to that depth. of like how far can you take something?
Right.
How far can you dig before you hit bedrock?
How many items am I gonna need?
And
to
that's
craft?
the thing. That's the beauty of Path. That's the beauty of Path, because there is no depth. Like there is no like, oh, dig 10 blocks down and you hit bedrock.
Right.
No, like
Once
you can just keep going, and you're sitting there like,
once you learn how much shit there is in the game, now you just get the fun part of learning how they all interact with each other.
yeah,
Like it's
true.
such a fun game. Like it's one of those things where, like, especially now when it's like toward like late league, you guys aren't playing anymore. Most of my friends aren't playing anymore. They've moved on, playing other games. I start doing the same, play a little bit of League, play a little bit of Fallout, replay.
You need to rest. You need to rest.
You do. You need a bit to
I think more than any other game, the complexity of Path and how hard you go. Not you in general, but just in general, like typically when League starts, how hard people go.
Yeah.
After a certain while, you like your brain needs a break. Like you,
yeah,
like if you don't start like toning down the amount of time you play, you may go insane. Like that. I say this every time I post something. Like, that Still Sane, when Zana said that shit, was like still sane exile. Like that shit is real. Like you can go insane. Like just you start dreaming about like fucking recombinators. You start like thinking about that shit.
Like, oh my god, it's recombinators. Fuck you.
You start, I'm just saying, like you need like to tone that shit down a little bit and be like, all right, let me go play some League. Let me go play some Rocket League. Let me go play something that I don't have to think about, because it's fucking hard. It's fucking
it's exhausting.
Fucking deep. And you're constantly thinking about how all this shit is interacting with each other. You're sitting there like, fuck.
The thing is like how I have a really fun way of looking at this is how many times where I'm like, I figured out my build or you figured out your build and we're mapping and you're like, hey man, do you want to map together? And one of us is like, dude, no, I'm trying to figure this shit out. You're literally having to not play the game and figure out what's going on with your build before you can really go and enjoy the game with someone else, because they're ahead of you and you can't do their content.
Yeah.
So you're like, no, I gotta do this particular type of content right now, man. I can't. My build won't live in there. Like, it's unfortunate when it happens. Like, but at the same time, like,
this game is a both a party oriented game, but also a very solo game.
Yeah.
Like, being in a channel full of people playing a game is awesome, but understand is that you're more likely never going to be on the same level as anyone else.
Right. No two people are going to be playing the game at the same level unless you both are just like, specifically sought yourself out for that particular thing. Like, hey, I'm going on this Discord to find another person that wants to go hard as fuck. And
even then, there are going to be subtle differences. If your builds are not complementing each other, like if, for example, when I made the Orabot, and then you went Inquisitor, what is it? Static? What was it? You went Righteous Fire first.
Yeah, I went Righteous Fire, and then
I realized that I wasn't really helpful to you.
Yeah, it was the most depressing fucking thing, because it was like, dude, and then especially because it makes you feel bad, because I'm like, you decided to play something that I've been wanting someone to play forever. Right?
And I can't do shit. Like, I can't, like, literally can't do anything by myself. Like, I literally have to depend on someone else to kill shit for me.
And then not only that, it's like, when you are around, an Orabot's supposed to make you stronger, but the particular things that you were giving me were not necessarily useful for my.
And that might be my fault, because I just didn't. This was my first time around, and I ain't gonna lie, I fucked that character up. Like my first version of it, the explanation and the kind of like the rough understanding of it was completely off. Like, I was doing the shit so fucking backwards, and I was just saying, like, what the fuck is going on? So by the time I figured out like another easier way to go about doing it, it was a little better, but it just wasn't enough to really. And I think honestly, it was.
I think at
I
that
don't want to
point,
say this. I don't want to say this because it's blasphemy. But Righteous Fire isn't the best build to do that with because the damage that it scales is not the same.
well, what I think what ends up being the situation is, if you are going to be an Orobot with a Righteous Fire player, you have to be as tanky as that Righteous Fire player, or else you will not be able to follow them in maps. Because that's the fun part about Righteous Fire is you are on fire, everything around you is burning, and you get to just look at everything in the face and laugh as they burn in your aura. Like, so if you're an Orobot trying to support that, you kind of need to be able to take a hit, because he's not going to be doing, tier 1, tier 2 maps at white quality. Like, he's going to be trying to like push harder content.
Yeah.
But I feel that we have gone on this topic kind of hard, and I think just like a league launch, we have to prepare for the next episode, my friend.
Yeah. Sneak peek. What's the next episode? Sneak peek.
Next episode, I don't know. What could we? What do you think is a good little question to ask of just random knowledge?
I really wanted to do that stagnation topic you suggested.
Let's see,
because there's a lot of people on Reddit talking about that shit.
So let me go back and look and see how that conversation went.
Yeah, sneak peek. Basically,
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm not sure which part of this is like, which part of this I should start at. The difference between like when you feel powerful in a game and if early power is like critical to feeling motivated to
the eureka moment.
Right. Like, when do you feel like this game is fun? This is successful. I'm having a fun game. Like, I'm progressing and shit, and nothing is going like terribly wrong.
Yeah, we call it. I think I decided to call it the stagnant exile.
Because there you can hit a point. Like, for instance, I hit this point almost every league where if you want to do harder content, your build's got to get significantly better. But you're at a point where most of the content you have is hard as fuck already. So you have to just do a lot of your hard as fuck content and then hope for a big drop so you can get an even crazier upgrade.
Right.
And that requires a map running monotony that I can't compete with.
You can become stagnant at multiple points of path.
Yeah.
It's not just a single one. There may be a juncture of 4, 5, 6 times where you can run into this issue, and that's what we want to talk about next episode.
I'll give you the first one that I think, Mervale. I think you can act. I think, as a matter of fact, a big
dude. I was thinking more like Act 6.
Nah, dude.
You can't get your resistances capped,
bro. I think that Path of Exile on a general gaming thing is a different enough game to where there are a fair amount of people that hit that point and they're like, no, I don't understand what's happening. I'm out.
Oh, Mervale.
Right.
I'm thinking, for some reason, I thought it was.
You're thinking
Maven.
No. I'm talking about Mervale.
I don't know why I thought you said Maven. I'm like, Maven? Fuck, that's way too far into the game.
That's super far. But I'm talking about
Mervale.
Like, you'll get to Mervale.
Because you could get hit. If you don't know about that code resist, you get mollywopped.
And I feel like, and then that's after, you're starting to get it.
That's surprise Brutus.
Brutus just smacks you up real quick, and then you're like, okay, I'm done with Brutus finally. And then you go into Mervale, and like Mervale just mopping your ass up too with a completely different way. And I feel like I have to know that people are quitting at those times, especially if you're new. Like, it's an unforgiving game if you're not willing to learn.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, I mean, we can make that argument. But let's go ahead and wrap.
Yeah. Everybody, I appreciate you guys joining us. Hit the buttons. Do the things. I appreciate it if you do. If you want more content, let us know. thank you, Cass, for being here and having this wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
Awesome. Goodbye, peoples.
See you.